Hi, my name is Willan Ziada, New York City-based director and creator of theater, television, and film, and also proud FENIX Global Artist Ambassador. Today, I am thrilled to introduce to you a new FENIX series called Deep Dive. Today's first episode has an internationally acclaimed artist. He is a creator, a writer, a composer, a performer, a director. He does it all. His name, Hamuchtar, and he is being interviewed by FENIX's very own Rami. For more on Hamuchtar, you can read more about him right below this video. But in the meantime, here is the abbreviated version of Rami's interview with the one and only Hamuchtar.
So, Hamuchtar, you're a composer, a performer, a stage and costume designer, a poetry writer, a videographer, a musician, a playwright, and an urban nomad. Am I leaving many things out? You have many artistic languages, as well as you use many languages. You have 15, you released 15 albums, right? And I think in 4 different languages. And you do cabaret, you do punk rock, you do opera, you do electronic music, and you do a lot of design. Am I basically covering your artwork?
Yes, I guess. Well, today, before we were appointed to meet, I was actually thinking, well, what am I really? And I felt there's a new term these days. It's called projector in Israel, which is to do with the corona, and it's actually that's what I feel that I'm doing at the moment. It's sort of quite desperately trying to accomplish my vague mission of accomplishing. But yes, I mean, I've been venturing on all kind of mediums along the years, and it was mainly to do with music. Yes. And in the later years, I took more the position behind the scene, and actually more like directing and having things happening rather than performing it by myself. Yeah.
It's interesting that you're raising this, bringing in this concept of projector. And the reason I'm saying it's interesting is because one of the questions that I wanted to put to you later is a question about I said that in a way I find in you a political exile, but I also find in you, I don't know how to call it exactly, maybe a cultural exile, an era exile, someone that refuses. You have great talent. You could have been so many things and done so many things, but in a way, I don't think you ever were after fame and glory. And I think in a way, you always kept, I don't want to say a safe distance, because it's not about keeping yourself safe, but you had some resilience to join the society, the political climax we live in, the neoliberal values, and even in general, the time that we live in. But at the same time, it always looks like your work gives a very interesting reflection of this time that you are resisting joining into. Am I getting anywhere close to your?
Well, I would sort of split things. I think it started in times when I was sort of together with the era, or what felt like some kind of community, even as much as it was sort of very limited in Tel Aviv. I had a very ambiguous relationship with success, so-called success, and its price. In a quite hysterical fear of losing losing oneself in it. So that's sort of part one of things, when basically the options were there, and I was sort of in a way rebelling inside an era or inside a circle. So it was some kind of rebellious within myself and within and inside some kind of shell. And then came a period. Then I left Israel, and then I started a process of falling into sort of together. I think somehow, well, in my perspective, together with the universe as well, some kind of decomposure of the medium and also the surrounding. A lot of changes happening, and with it, you one as an artist, and sorry for using this term, is trying to still do or use the tools of art to sort of reflect, the perception about what one see and one experience, and with the hope that it will make some kind of change or touch somebody. So yeah, it's like there are two parts for it. The moment where there was a kind of relevancy. It's a bit like Arafat. Yeah, when Arafat was sort of operating, especially in exile, sort of fighting for what he saw as his cause and his nation, and once he was sort of, I remember Sharon was saying, once they put him in the Mukata in Ramallah, he said, the man is irrelevant. The man is irrelevant. And from there on, the whole purpose was to create or to turn him to irrelevance. So I don't know why I'm thinking of him, but I've been thinking of him sometimes. So yes, it's some kind of, there's a struggle, and my just as an addition, I should just want to say that, I'm not saying, I don't want to talk now about Arafat and actually his position in the history of this conflict, and in the people he was supposed to represent. But yeah, so there's, yeah, it is political somehow also. I mean, political, social, and I'd like also to link something to you were just mentioning before, our meeting. You see, when I was not living in Israel at that time, and I remember I was following, at that time I was more, and that's subject we wanted to talk of, so I was following, I was using the social net, this Facebook and I was following what's happening in Israel, especially with the refugees, and I found myself getting really extremely furious by what I saw. And so when I met you, it was a very, for me, the attraction, for me, Tel Aviv, in a way, starts and ends in the Tachana Merkazit, the old bus station, because it's where, I only feel comfortable in cosmopolitan areas and where people are not kind of marching away their patriotism, feeling that they are the kings of the land, just because I don't believe in it. And in the bus station, you do have the feeling that everybody's somehow equal, and there is no such a thing as a sorry, I'm missing the word, as national. I mean, the nationalism is out of the question, because there is no place for it there. Yeah. So that's why
maybe we just say something to the audience about the bus station, because we both are using this term. This area is the area where many people in Israel believe that it's a no man's land. It's dangerous. You can't pass there because you'll be robbed. There are all these African refugees that Israelis let's put it without apologizing. Israel is an extremely racist country, and the racism extends to the African refugees. And both you and me happen to live in the area and to be to spend many years in this area that most people in Israel would, out of stereotypes, would not dare coming close to. So this is just at the background, yeah.
Yes.
And your studio was right there.
And let me add also that I mean, all this nonsense. You know, I wasn't born in Israel. I was born 17 kilometers from Israel. Sorry, I was born not in Tel Aviv. I was born 17 kilometers from Tel Aviv, which is, you know, would regard in any other city as sort of greater Tel Aviv, would say. They call it Gush Dan. So I mean, but still, it felt like, you know, another town, and it was another town. But from the age of 14, I used to come a lot to Tel Aviv, and always via the bus station, and then I moved to Tel Aviv. But so I know the bus station also before it became the center of the refugees in Israel, and it was always dirty. It was always dangerous. I think even more than today, to some extent. So I mean, everybody who was kind of talking about it normally, I mean, you got all this kind of this Shefi Paz people, this kind of ultra, I mean, basically nationalistic, racist group there. They're talking about the old times as if the bus station was some kind of like some sort of blooming sort of garden of some sort of cafes and children running around happily and butterflies. It was never like this. It was always dirty, perverts, drugs, violence. So I mean, anyway, but that's something else. But what I wanted to say is when I came and I met you there, I also had this feeling very quickly of, you know, this fear, and it's of riding on the refugees, riding on a cause. Because you know, if you're a successful artist, yeah, say successful in the standards, you know, with financial, you know, but you're doing things that are, you know, like have a greater impact worldwide, and you actually really, you know, I say like you know, political bands as U2, for example, who had some kind of cause, you know, and had the means to promote their ideas and support. Then it's something else, because, you know, you actually you take a situation and you promote it in your means, and it's hard to say that you're doing it to boost your ego or anything, or to build your career upon. And when you are in my position, sometimes you ask yourself, hang on a second, how can I really contribute? B, do I use the situation to promote myself? Is that something is that to wake up in the morning and look at the mirror and say, oh wow, you're such a wonderful person. Look at you, you're doing good-ish for people, or but why do you do it? Why do you do it? Is that for you or for them? Do you really, I mean, you know, where's the balance here? So yeah, that's something that also I asked myself many times, and then you're trying to. At that time, I was working with children with disability, as you know, and I had some setup working with the children, Israeli children, and so I was trying to at least do that. Shift that project also with the children of Levinsky, the Tachana Merkazit, that you were working with. So yeah, that was at least something I felt that, you know, I knew that it's doing good for the children, and yeah, giving them voice. I was trying to give them voice, and as I said, I felt that, you know, it was a little bit too late somehow, because I was actually with you in the bus station when they were taken away. So I didn't have much time, and it felt like it was almost the end, and they closed the library very soon after. It was, So in a way, came quite late, unfortunately. I mean, there's always work. Of course, there's still children, and there's always more that you can do. But just to say that I somehow was kind of catching the last bus, if you want, somehow.
Yeah. This is the time that many were deported. That's what you're referring to. Yeah.
Yes. I was there with you, just looking at the buses, and I must say the connotations probably were the same in my head and yours from what we were just looking at.
My next point is related, not really a question, but is related to, I want to say, sometimes it's difficult to distinguish between your seriousness and your sense of humor. You're doing very amusing things very seriously. And I don't think it's a confusion. I think this is part of the intention. And what I would like you to tell a little bit now is about the Reazar in the central bus station. Yeah. Because the Reazar was, you presented it like you tried to initiate a new religion. Because all other religions got wrong at some stage and things turned bad. So he said, why don't we just reformat the whole thing and start a new religion? But this time, let's bring from the beginning what we think should be there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, just to clarify it for the English speakers, Reazar means some kind of, it's a match between friend, stranger. It's a stranger friend or stranger mate. Well, my opinion on religious in general is that it misses definitely the three monotheistic language religions miss the main thing that paradise is here and not the next life. And in that respect, they all miss doing the same or teaching the same thing, that basically this life is not worth it. And hence the attitude towards the globe. I mean, to the universe, to the planet we live in. Reazar's idea was to eliminate the whole issue with a hidden deity. It's irrelevant, but more like about because the average human being is very lonely, and I like the aspect of this sort of gatherness, sort of meeting up in once a week, and having some kind of, the Jews have this, in Pesach, they have this sort of meeting around the table. They sit and sort of read some kind of some obscure story about going to Egypt and so on. Mind you, there's very little mentioning of the Jews in the Egyptian hieroglyphs. There's something mentioned there about some kind of tribe. So this is actually quite questionable if we were ever there, but that's a different issue. But the story is nice. And you sit around the table, and there's some kind of ceremony. And I always thought it's quite nice. I mean, they just, when you detach this for anything really, and just create some, go over. There's something to read. I mean, there's something nice when one person can read, and then the following, and then there's some kind of chants. Also, the concept of a church, when you go on a Sunday and there's somebody playing the organ. It's very powerful. It's beautiful. I mean, Bach was writing the most amazing pieces that were ever written for the church. And that was more like the church was his patron, and if not the church, this amazing pieces would never be written, that are sort of expressing the human suffering so beautifully. And I wanted to create something like this in the bus station. And I must say again about the bus station, this place just allows so many things to happen that once this will be out, and its days are numbers. You see this now. You see more and more new buildings. They slowly they kind of like push everything out, and they're going to demolish this building, and then the last places where one can actually do things will be gone, and the whole sense of non-Zionistic, patriotic, nationalistic place in Tel Aviv will be gone, and that will be it, really. So what was I saying? So yeah, so I mean, it was absolutely lovely to. I mean, this idea was not catching on, but yeah, it was. I was serious about it. I wanted to create something that could, but but you do something. I mean, when you tell it to somebody from the side, it's comic, but it's. I never take things comically. I mean, there's always some. I mean, I take every joke seriously, and vice versa. So it's whatever you do until the end. So I was actually sitting down, and I wanted to write for every week something new, some new chance, But at least you were there.
It brings to my mind the distinction that the philosopher Wittgenstein has put between saying and showing. I mean, in a way, there are people that call themselves political artists, and I think they're very common today. And they're talking a lot about politics. And they are, in a way, there's something very, I mean, they take themselves to be sometimes progressive, sometimes radical, and the content of their work is political. And I always found that, not always, because some of them are just happen to be great artists, but I always find that, I tend to find that prone to a certain sort of fallacy. It's a common fallacy in art in general. I mean, if you need to explain your work of art, then don't waste my time on going to the museum or anywhere. Just explain to me. If the art doesn't show what you want me to see, then don't call yourself an artist. And I always think that, in a way, I find your work very political, although you hardly talk about politics in your art. Yeah.
Well, one political well. It's always a fine line. You might be able more to explain to me actually about this, but I mean, I'm more actually interested in social. Always was more interested in social matters. An album I made before coming to Israel, actually just before we met, was called Nevuah Vatov, the Drum and Prophecy, which the song Jerusalem is taken from. That was an album that I wanted to create some kind, it was, there's the style called drum and bass, and I came up with this idea of drum and prophecy. So you get kind of like a prophetic kind of biblical-esque sort of chants that are or psalms, that are coming up with some kind of, drums and some kind of danceable beat. But this had an aim. I wanted to. I mean, in this respect, I was hoping that the album would be successful enough to actually raise money for causes. And I remember I was at that time I was living in Berlin. It was. I had a short period in Israel and then coming back here, but at that time I was still here, and I wanted to make an album and I put all the causes that I would like to support, like the mainly at the end it was sort of, I thought maybe I could, that the money could go to lawyers who'd, help refugees or any people in minorities, who are in troubles, against the authorities, to have something quite clear. But at the end, we decided, there was the friend I was consulting with, Rachel, her name, that the money would go. She told me about a man who is doing who is working with the Palestinians, farmers. Their olive trees were uprooted or destroyed, to help them, replant olive trees and replant their olive groves. So I thought that's wonderful. I love this. So and she sent me some information about him, and I thought, this is genuine, and I like that. So that money was going to him. I think I have maybe one or two olive trees somewhere, but it's, if that's true. I mean, apparently. So that was good enough. I mean, of course, I wanted more to do, but yeah, in that respect, yes. I mean, I have aspirations, but I don't actually push. I try not to push them into, not to make them too. I mean, there's one of the musicians I was working with, Kozo, his name is, from Natasha, the Friends of Natasha. It is quite. I mean, was at that time they were just working on their first album when I met him, and we somehow collaborated. We just had a show called Horrible Days, something, when I was actually sort of reading out things from religious chants, actually, and we had some kind of nice. I mean, it was bass and drums, and we were performing together. Somehow very similar to Drum and Prophecy, but the texts were more like actually were written. It was my original. And he said to me, look, why do you try to, because, and then in the betweens, I was trying to kind of put on my ideas, my political ideas or social ideas. And he said, well, he said to me, wait, I don't think you should mix. Either you go to politics or, leave it out of the stage. And I was thinking about what he was saying. I thought maybe he got a point, and then I started to kind of like rearrange. So yes, that's the of my sort of the way I was treating my ideas and notions. Though I should say that many times I feel that I'm not sure that I've done the right thing. That you can sit on the side, especially and you watch things happening, and you feel that you're not doing enough, and maybe you should just do. Instead of just being kind of like writing a poem about it. So I call it about being a bystander, because you are a bystander. I mean, it's the worst of the what is the worst? You got this empathic bystander standing there. It's like, oh, this is absolutely terrible what's going on there, absolutely terrible. And you write a little poem about it, and there's something. Go out to the street. Do your but then you ask yourself also, is that what makes sense? What makes sense in this? I mean, I'd say that what you're doing makes sense, because you are really making a difference. I mean, I must say, then that's the point to say that really I have a lot of admiration to what you're doing, because I think that you are really doing things that change life and aspire for good. As much as I know that a lot of the things you are trying to do are not really kind of like you're fighting monsters of that are almost unwinnable. I mean, especially with the kids that are in Africa. I mean, that were sent back.
Yeah. I can say, I mean, if I can give a wider perspective, in a way, putting together the two things. For my activities, I need to raise money, a lot of money. I mean, a lot of money would be nothing for someone else, whereas very small organization, all volunteer based. But in order to raise money, I need to keep quiet on so many things that I feel that I should raise my voice about. So true, there are things I am saying, and I am also involved in many forms of political activism, but there are many more things that I'm doomed to remain silent, because if I'll say everything that I can to everybody, the chances that I will be able to get the empathy of the people we need the support of will reduce. I mean, I can't make myself a political caricature by saying everything that I think. So in that way, I think that there's a room for the two things. To do things, sometimes you need to forget many of you need to compromise about the reality we live in. Not because I really compromise, but there's so many things that need to pass by me, and I just can't open my mouth because I need things to work. I need, again, 200 children to be able to go to school. I need their scholarships to be paid. I need the teachers and the headmasters to think that I'm a proper partner rather than some political weirdo, especially when we're talking about people that are in countries that are so different in many of their norms than the way that I tend to identify myself. So in the other side of the coin is that I find a lot of value in the fact that there's a division of labor. Some people have to keep up with the perspective on what's really going on. So it's not that you either do or say and remind people of where we are. There's, changing the world requires that there'll still be the hands to move things and the voice to raise when it needs to be raised. So
on what you're saying, I'm not sure that it's compromise. I remember when this movement of Occupy the Streets, where you were arguing about the terminology, and I thought you were right actually, because you are it's about there is a goal. And if you're trying to achieve the goal, you can just by being too by not mincing your words, you can lose far more than gain, because you are if you're trying to get the goal, and you know where you're trying, if you're trying to get there, you don't want just to kind of immediately eliminate so many people around you just because you are boldly saying what you want. If the idea is actually to recruit people and to actually convince them, or to make them listen, at least, then you have to mince your words. You have to actually think thrice, not twice. Because otherwise you just, okay, then you are in a way just supporting your own then you're thinking of yourself first, you're putting yourself first, and then you say, yeah, okay, so that's who I am, that's the movement I'm leading, it's me. But no, you are. I think this is the wiser way of doing it. While because you're thinking of the cause, and you are basically trying to balance your place inside this step you're trying to make. So I don't think it's compromising at all, actually.
And we'll see you next time on another edition of FENIX's brand new interview series, Deep Dive.